Hi, this is The Greatest Story Ever Played. I'm Dan, and today I'm going to be talking about Florence. So, a description for this game. At 25, Florence Yeo feels a little stuck. Her life is an endless routine of work, sleep, and spending too much time on social media. Then one day, she meets a cello player named Krish, who changes everything about how she sees the world. Experience every beat of Florence and Krish's relationship through a series of bespoke gameplay vignettes, from flirting to fighting, from helping each other grow to growing apart. Drawing inspiration from slice-of-life graphic novels and webcomics, Florence is an intimate, raw, and personal. From the lead designer of Monument Valley comes Florence, an emotive and unique mobile narrative experience. Okay, so a little background on the game. It's developed by the game studio Mountains from Australia, and this is the first game that they made. First entry. Cool. Also, for me, this is the first real mobile game that I've played. Definitely for the podcast to use it, and then otherwise, I've played like quiz games or something on my phone, but nothing that would have drawn me to wanting to record on it, that it should be a part of this podcast. But Florence changed that. So here we are. So the way that this game operates is it's more or less, it's drawn into 6 acts. Each act has a couple chapters in it that explore a certain idea. That's kind of how it goes. Also, all in all, the game takes maybe a half hour if you're going real fast, maybe an hour if you're kind of taking your time and going slow, something like that. And I think it's $2 or $3 on the App Store. With that in mind, I definitely recommend getting it. I just played it last night while I was sitting around and was like, all right, I'm going to check this out, and it was wonderful. So here we are with that, and I guess pre you already know how I feel about it. But there's that. So again, as with always, I'm gonna kind of go through a more in-depth recap. It will spoil this, so if you don't want to be spoiled, I recommend spending $3 and spending the hour playing or half hour playing or whatever. Or you can probably find some walkthroughs on YouTube if you'd like to do that. Okay. Now, we will continue with the recap. So, starting off, Act 1. And we get a couple things here for Act 1. One thing is we get just a look into the daily life of Florence. We do experience things like we brush our teeth, go to work, and do calculations, different things like this. Going home and eating sushi. You've got to just kind of, this is her day. Playing on our phone on what looked like Instagram probably. So, just doing that. So we see that. Next up, what we do is there's a chapter called Memories. She is cleaning her room, and in her closet, she opens this box. She sees a box, she opens it, and there's memories that are inside of it. One thing that's in there is artwork from her childhood, and it's cool because she picks it up and looks at it, and then you actually get to make the artwork. So there's like one of a butterfly, and you can choose the colors and designs that go on it, and it's pretty fun getting to make that. After that, they show a mirror, and on it is you and your best friends from when you were 7. And then the mirror has a clock on it, and as you push the clock forward, and it goes, age 8, age 10, age 15, 21, now today at 25. And what you see is her, Florence changes herself, right? Her appearance changes, she gets older, all that. Likewise, her friends do, and they get into things, and then you actually see them fade out. So they're not even in the mirror at 25, and you kind of see them fading out at like 17, 18. As high school was ending. So it's pretty real. It was just like, ooh, they're already starting off with the memories like that. So I really like this specific section. I have a box similar to Florence's in my closet where it has different memories of things that are important. So like notes that I found meaningful, or concert tickets that were from bands I really like that I went to, or different things like that. And I could feel the nostalgia. I imagine some of you probably also have a box like that, and if you don't, I recommend starting one. I like looking through mine occasionally, and I feel like it was even similar to Florence, where I'm doing something else and I see it and I'm like, oh, I'm going to check this out. So we see her memories. Last thing we have is Florence is walking down the street and she hears music and she's carried to it. And you see, you kind of follow the musical notes being carried to it, and you get there and there is a guy playing cello, and Florence is loving it. You can tell that the music is both beautiful and this guy is, wow, like he's a great looking dude, seems awesome, and he's making this beautiful music. So it's just kind of like a whoa moment for her. So Act 1. Act 2 begins, and Florence is riding her bike to work, and as she's riding her bike, she sees the cello guy and is distracted and ends up crashing her bike. Very much so, like people do sometimes. She crashes her bike, but then he comes and checks in on her, and to make sure she's okay, you have a puzzle where you're trying to focus in on him, and so you've got like a meter thing that like what you do with like a thermometer, essentially. It looks like that, and you need to get those right to be able to see clearly of him. Personally, for me, this was the one puzzle in the game I didn't like, because it was a little less clear than the other ones on how to do. So at first I messed around with it for a little while and was stuck. Then I restarted it and figured it out, and it was fine, but I didn't really like this puzzle that much. The rest of them I did like, but that one I was a little less into. And so you meet him, you find out his name is Krish, and later on you start going on dates. So you've had your meet cute moment here, which was fun. After this you go on dates, and this was pretty cool. They show different locations of dates, but something they did is they show conversation bubbles to show them getting to know each other. And the conversation bubbles, you don't have words in this game for the most part, actually, which is kind of it's an interesting move. Instead, with this, you just see like the conversation bubble, and it's a color. So you're one color and he's the other. And at the beginning, your puzzles are a little more complicated. You know, they might have 4, 5, 6 pieces. And as you go on dates, the puzzles get easier. So, you know, it goes from 5 pieces to 3 pieces to 2 pieces. And then at the end, it's just one piece, and you just move it into the dialogue box. And I thought this was a tremendous way to show them getting closer, getting more comfortable with each other. It's so relatable. You know, when you, at least I know for me, and maybe for you, when I meet someone new, you know, sometimes conversation is hard. It's difficult, and so, you know, you're trying to put those pieces of the puzzle together to work. But then, you know, when you're someone who you love or close to or naturally really get along with, you know, conversation just flows. There's no difficulty. It's just throwing the bubbles there, and you got to see that with them, which I thought was fantastic. What a great way to show that. We move on to Act 3, and we see their relationship get deeper. One thing you see is them share each other's dreams. So Krish's dream is to be able to be a renowned, famous, good musician. So in his dream, you kind of uncover this picture of him playing before an audience, going to school, having records that sell, like that kind of thing. And then for Florence, we discover that she really loved art, that she'd loved it as a kid, and she just has let it get away from her, and that she loves art. So we've got that. After this, we get to see more experiences Florence and Krish have together. And so what you've got is this map with Polaroids on them that you shake, and it makes the image become clear. And you see these varying dates that they've gone on, and which were really nice and a cool way to show us the dates and experiences they have. So there was like meeting Krish's family, or going on a hike, or stuff like that. That was kind of what it was. So that was pretty cool. From here, we go to Act 4, and we see the relationship again get deeper. One thing we see is them getting in an argument at the grocery store when they're trying to decide what to do. And it seems like it's their first real fight. So, you know, this is a big moment, of course, in the couple's history together. They get in a big fight and argue with each other. They get in this argument with each other. And I don't know about you, grocery store is definitely a place where arguments can happen if you don't go in ready or something. It's silly, but I've certainly gotten in arguments before at the grocery store with my wife, so maybe you relate to that as well. Also, in this, you see them reconcile. So there's a part where they're both turned away from each other, and then you can turn around and you embrace each other and reconcile and work through the fight, which was wonderful. Really nice to see. If your relationship never fights, that's not necessarily a good thing, just because does that mean you guys have stuff you want to fight about, but you're afraid to bring it up, or, something like that. So it was good seeing them be able to have an argument, but then work through it together. After this, they decide to move in together. And this is 6 months later after meeting. They give you a fast forward of time. And this one is interesting because you move Krish's stuff into Florence's apartment. And as you're going, you go through different parts of the house. You go into the kitchen, and you choose which of your items will also go on the shelves and which ones will go into storage. There's not enough room for everything. Or what of Florence's things would go into storage. After this, you go to a bookshelf, and you choose same thing with there. It's interesting having to decide it because there's, some things that are duplicates, like I think there was 2 of like a certain kind of soy sauce or sauce of some sort to have for food, but and I think there was 2 crock pots or 2 toasters, something like that. So that was easy. But then there were other things where it was like, oh, to have this thing, we're gonna have to get rid of your pans, or I'm gonna have to get rid of my ketchup bottle, or whatever. There's different things like that. So it was interesting navigating that for me because I'm like, okay, I don't want to like put all of Krish's stuff in storage. But it's my apartment, so I don't want his stuff invading it, but I don't want it neglected either. So it was trying to sort through that because I wasn't sure if there'd be ramifications or something. So there you move in, and then after this you get a bit of enjoying life together. We see Krish get into music school, and you see how Florence pushed him to do it. There's actually a part where you actually shove him to the school to apply. He gets in, and it's great. It's super exciting. They're really excited about life. In his excitement for getting in, he buys art supplies for Florence and says, I'm getting to pursue my dream now. You should pursue yours, which is awesome. It's really cool. Act 5. It's moved 1 year later. And what you see is that they've fallen into the daily routine of life. Now it's very similar to Act 1. Florence brushes her teeth. Florence is at work. That kind of stuff. You just see that for both of them, though, instead. The routine of life, they also have a similar to the beginning, where there's a mirror with a clock that fast forwards time. And so at first, it starts with them, I think, kissing and then hugging. And as it moves, then they are no longer looking at each other. Then they're on their phones. And so you can see that their kind of passion has decreased in the relationship, that it's become routine. I do this thing, you do this thing. We're together, but like the passion that was there previous to this is not as much there. Then they show Florence and Krish doing dishes, and they get in a big fight, and they get really mad at each other. And in this one, you've got the puzzle bubbles like before, except instead it ends up just being, one after the other. It's like you can feel it escalating, which is incredible. Again, for not having voice actors, for not having dialogue or words, you could feel it. You see it escalate, and then you end up seeing them sleeping, looking away from each other. You do a puzzle of like their bed. They're both just looking opposite ways, mad at each other. So that's sad. After this, there's a photo of you two together, and this section's called Drifting. And what it is you put together this photo of Florence and Krish hugging, but the photo itself is actually drifting. So once you get pieces in place, they start to move away from each other, and so you have to keep putting it back together to smash it together. And finally once it's done, they're still a little drifted apart. It looks like a photo that's maybe even been ripped up before when you look at it. And oh my god, this was sad. This was powerful. This was a great job by the developers here. I felt the sadness seeing that, and I was like, you just want to have it fit together, and it's not. Yeah, super sad. After this, the next section is moving out. And what you do is you end up repacking all of Krish's stuff that you'd unpacked previously. And this is super sad too. You're like, oh, is that my toaster? Okay, that's my picture I put up or whatever. Or Krish's picture you put up. Like, oh man, that felt super sad. And yeah, it was just rough. It was super sad. Act 6. Now it is back to being alone for Florence. And you see kind of the same routine. It's back to, again, like the beginning. Brushing teeth, working, crying. It's sad. It was hard to see. And after going through kind of your sad montage, she looks and she sees her old art set on her desk, and it's been buried by, different paperwork and notebooks and just junk. And she decides to pull it out. She starts doing art. And as she's doing art, what happens is she ends up being really successful. She starts being able to do shows. She sets up like an Etsy equivalent and is actually selling her art online. And it's really cool. Ultimately, she's even able to leave her old job and be done with that, which was so cool. To see art work out for her. This dream that she'd had, end game, having that work out. And so then you are cleaning out your desk at your job and packing up your stuff. So it's like, oh, here's my picture and, the other clutter I have at my desk. And then she pulls out a picture of her and Krish that was like under her keyboard. And it says, "A good day with Krish." And she looks at it and she smiles. And then she puts the photo in her box to go with her other memories. Game over. So, yeah, that's the game. So, couple general thoughts. I mentioned this off top, but yeah, this is the first mobile game that we've done on the podcast, and one of the few that I've played. I mentioned I played like some trivia ones or stuff like that. Want to do it on the podcast, but Florence certainly changed that. I thought this story was very great and very worth discussing together or whatever. So. And I think this too shows that an interactive story is really great for a mobile game. I felt great about spending $2 or $3 for this game. I really enjoyed getting to play it. I feel like if you lived in a commuting city like New York or something like this would be perfect for a commute. You might cry on the subway, but you'd certainly be able to play all of Florence on your commute. But, I really, really enjoyed it. And I don't think, I'm not a, you're not a real gamer if blah, blah, blah. I don't feel like that. I don't think we need to gatekeep gaming at all. But for me, nothing about mobile games particularly appeals to me in general. Like, I like playing on console. That's kind of my thing. That's what I enjoy. And the things that I like on console, generally speaking, don't seem like they would translate to a phone that well, at least today. And so that's been less appealing, but Florence really showed me a different side of that. If this studio makes another interactive story that's on the phone, I'm going to buy it day one. I'm interested. So interactive story on the phone is great, and I hope that I imagine there are more that I don't know about that I haven't played. So actually, if you know of some, please send them in. But yeah, I think it's perfect for it. It's a great medium for it. Totally good. And hopefully it's a way to access some indie games that I can't play on my PS4. So that's my first thought there. About the game itself, one thing I really liked was the music. The music sounded really good in it. It was very enjoyable. It really fit the mood for the game too, just as you're kind of going through this relationship. I enjoyed that. The puzzles in it were really easy. Again, the only one I mentioned that I didn't like was the thermometer looking one when you crash your bike. But really, there's 20 chapters among the 6 acts, and I think all 20 chapters have a puzzle of some nature, or most of them, and they're all really easy. They're super They're really easy. You can figure them out even if you had never played a game. And then adding to that, I think that this game is super accessible. Maybe out of any game, if I were going to try to get someone who doesn't play video games to play one, I might suggest this. Because the time investment is small, less than an hour. The skill level is, you don't need really any. Since it's an interactive story, it's super available. I feel like I could have my mom play this or something and she would be fine. So, that's great. And it's cheap, $2 or $3 or whatever. So it's not like you're having to buy a Xbox or PlayStation and then buy a $50 game to try out gaming. So I think this is an excellent entry to video games for people too. I really liked it. I was really impressed. And also I thought, just for emotion's sake, they did a great job. It was an emotional game, and I felt different things for Florence and her relationship as it went. They did a really great job. Lastly, is that the game really reminded me of the TV show Master of None on Netflix that Aziz Ansari stars in and created and stuff. It really, really reminds me of it. It's got the slice of life feel. It's got the both the TV show and the game. You're 25 to 30 and you're trying to figure out how to do life, how to be an adult, navigating these things that are confusing. How's relationships and work and all this stuff work out. I thought that Florence really reminded me of Master of None. And I liked that a lot. I thought Master of None is a really good show and highly recommend watching it if you're interested in that kind of thing. I think anything that can capture this age range that I'm in, and probably many of you are in, I don't know. I really like it. It's helpful to hear and even just have that affirmation of, everyone doesn't get it. Your challenges are relatable as well to others, kind of thing. So, that was my last kind of thought there. So if you have any thoughts or comments about Florence or really any other mobile games, please write in at TheGreatestStoryEverPlayed@gmail.com or on Twitter at StoryEverPod. Let me know. I'd love to dialogue about these with you. And also, if you could rate and review us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcast, that would really help us out. Just getting kind of more exposure and hopefully bringing these kind of games that you and I enjoy to more and more people and have more people share in this stuff with us. And we will see you next time.